first heard about the Speedcobra when I was in Japan, and we were playing in Tokyo. And Mitch from Hoshino, Japan, brought this pedal out of nowhere. He just walked up and said, "Try this." And that's when I saw it for the first time. The first time that I actually played with a band with this pedal was in my rehearsal space. I rehearsed with a band here, my band, Lithium Tree, and I just noticed I was getting more power. That was the first thing that I noticed. But it did take a minute to adjust to the feel and the footboard. The footboard is longer, but for some reason I felt like I didn't have to push the footboard down as much to get that impact. So even though it was easier, I didn't have total control over it yet. So by the end of the rehearsal, I started to feel where that was, and I haven't gone back since. I've been using it ever since. I think once you get used to it, you realize that it actually gives you more control. And it gives you more room, like if you want to play multiple strokes, double strokes or triple strokes. The Speedcobra footboard is much smoother. So it's easier to use different sliding techniques or pivot. You know, if you pivot your foot, like I like to pivot my foot a lot. Like there's a way that the heel sort of pivots and I push up, and that was also easier to do on the Speedcobra. The first major difference between the Iron Cobra and the Speedcobra that I noticed was how easy it was to literally throw the beater against the drum head. I couldn't believe how much smoother. I mean, the Iron Cobra is a great pedal, but I was really surprised at how easy it was to play the Speedcobra. And I didn't have to use nearly the same amount of effort to get as much power as I get from it. I think it's important to be able to get a lot of power out of a pedal without having to work too hard. One of the reasons is when you're playing a show, or if you're doing a concert that's like 2 hours long or 3 hours long, and they're high energy shows, or there are parts of the show where you have to really push. It's nice to be able to have that kind of consistency throughout the show without your thigh getting sore, or you have to worry about pacing yourself. So it's important also just to be able to play dynamically, and also to play soft but still maintain the same amount of energy. When you have a pedal where you can keep that intensity but also play at a soft volume, it can still feel powerful, but you're not full throttle at that point. Another thing I noticed was the beater. It's a felt beater, and it's got this sort of arrowhead, this point that I noticed, and immediately I got much more attack and more of a focused sound. You could actually turn the beater over. You can just kind of flip it, and then you have the more flat portion of it, and you don't really lose any attack, but it's like a fatter sound. This is probably the first time that I felt that I didn't have to change. I didn't have to use my wood beater or put a plastic beater on. One of the other things that I noticed about the Speedcobra was the amount of rebound I was able to get without 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 it feeling difficult to press down. Usually, in order to get more rebound, you have to really tweak and tighten the spring, and that can make it more difficult to use the pedal in order to press down. But with the Speedcobra, I didn't have to do that, and I was able to get a lot of rebound without that extra tension of having to force the pedal. I didn't feel I had to fight the pedal. The spring is a newly designed spring, and there's a lighter material, and that's one of the reasons why I was able to get more rebound without having to have more tension. The Cobra coil, I think, plays a major role as well, and that was also on the Iron Cobra. I'd been using the Iron Cobra Power Glide for years, and I picked the Power Glide because it had an off-centered cam, which made the pedal faster, particularly at the end of a stroke. There was this accelerated impact. It was just more velocity. I liked the speed and the feel of that. So I was really surprised when Thomas sent me the Speedcobra that it was more of a rounded cam, which is more like the roller glide, I think it's called. And the reason why I was surprised because it felt like the off-centered cam. It had that same acceleration. But at the same time, it felt more even. So they were able to use the rounded cam and still have that acceleration and have it more even, which is great because, again, it makes it a very versatile pedal. You know, you can play all kinds of music. It's not just for speed. I mean, it's a fast pedal, but it's not just for speed. It's very sensitive. I recently did a recording with a great singer named Mary Gatchell, and I used the Speedcobra for that recording. And what I noticed is that I was able to play with intensity at a very low level. Usually when you use a pedal that is built for speed, it can be like a one-dimensional thing. Like it feels good, it sounds good when you're playing fast or when you're playing loud. But when you're trying to play different kinds of grooves and you're trying to play with dynamics, it's harder to control. But the Speedcobra was the opposite. It was far easier to control. So I was able to go into all these different musical situations with a lot of confidence using this pedal.